Professors and university employees of Reddit, what behind-the-scenes campus drama went on that students never knew about? In our chemistry department a few years back, a grad student who was failing started poisoning another graduate student they worked with closely by putting carcinogens in their foods and drinks. Colorless, odorless, flavorless, thanks to his chemistry knowledge, he was eventually caught, and I'm not sure what happened to him. Thrown out for sure. Perhaps arrested. Another year a grad student pushed another student down a flight of steps to try to kill them. Chemists are crazy. 2 professors arrested for meth production, 1 for murdering his wife with lab supplies. Another stepped down quietly for embezzlement. And that's how we replaced half our chemistry department in a year. A professor was hired to start a research center/institute. Got paid a lot of money and came in with tenure. He was fucking weird to begin with, but as time went on it became apparent that he wasted all the funds intended for starting the center. Nothing was happening but the accounts were diminishing. The whistleblower hotline was provided with a bunch of data that strongly suggested he was funneling a lot of that money to a company owned in part by his brother. In addition to a lot of blatant and casual misuse of funds, buying personal and convenience stuff for himself and staff, things started heating up and they called him in for a hearing about it. The very next day we found an indignant letter announcing his resignation and accusing the entire department and college of unethical behavior slipped under the door. He skipped out in the middle of the night, leaving a big pile of deliberately damaged equipment in his office. The university didn't pursue him. I believe it was because they were in the middle of a scandal involving faculty and students in another department and just didn't want to hear about it. Students were completely unaware. Edit, neglected to mention that the other department's scandal revolved around alleged faculty misconduct with minors off campus. In the English department, one of the professors got arrested for domestic violence, divorced his wife, then got another English professor pregnant and eventually married her. And they all saw each other at department meetings. Super awkward. Edit, to clarify, the husband and original wife were both professors. He had an affair with another English professor. Wife found out and there was a major fight. Cops were called. He was arrested for DV, but I believe the charges were dropped. He filed for divorce, moved in with the other professor, got her pregnant, and he and the ex were still fighting over child support and alimony when I left. I was the pregnant professor's TA, but I was definitely team original wife. I was a professorial assistant to the Italian department, and one of my favorite professors did a showing of a very famous Italian film Swept Away on a weekend. This was an outside-of-class activity, which no one was required to attend. At a college with college-age students. Just hey, we don't have time to watch this in class, so we'll watch it over the weekend in the auditorium. The movie in question would be considered controversial by American standards, but Italian film standards it is also controversial, but considered a pretty important film for anyone studying film. It deals with some pretty intense issues involving dynamics between men and women, wealthy and poor, as well as, depending on your interpretation, a rape scene. I was working in the department when we did this movie showing, and so I got a front row view of it blowing up. Apparently some freshmen, who are 18 years old, attended the screening and complained to their parents, who complained to the school. The school decided the best option was to fire my professor. The Italian department went to bat for him, reminding the school that adult students attended the screening voluntarily. The school knew they couldn't get away with firing him specifically for that, so at the end of the quarter they revoked his contract renewal. He was supposed to come back the next year, for lifestyle choices that conflict with university standards. Dumb move. I don't know who on the university's legal team wrote it that way, but they should be fired. The professor in question was Pakistani and openly gay, living with his husband. As far as I understand it, he took their asses to court for discriminatory dismissal. They settled out of court for an unknown sum, but it was enough that my professor and his husband moved out to Italy, where he now works at a university there and is very happy. No one outside of the Italian department knew what happened. Professor was there one quarter and gone the next with no warning whatsoever. When I was going through my PhD program, a buddy of mine had his professor die on him. Young guy, in his 40s, got hit by a car, boom. Not so fun fact, when a professor dies, their grants go away. If a grad student is on the verge of finishing, just writing up their results, they can sometimes hop to another lab and get by. My friend, however, was only in his second year. He had to start over with a new project in a new lab. Essentially lost 2 years of his life on a project that yielded absolutely nothing. Woo, grad school, so uplifting. Deleted. One of our male English professors was being stalked by a female student, to the point he had to get a restraining order against her. The only reason my class knew was because she saw him in the hallway, entered our classroom and made a huge scene the first day of class, and security had to be called to make her leave. After that, the door was always locked for that class and whoever was in the back row were scouters to let in late students. He also had to cancel class to go to court for the situation at least once. I knew a guy who was well liked and respected, and had several $1 million NIH grants that he was overseeing. He was well known in the international community and everyone treated him as an expert in his field. He'd been working in the field for a couple of decades. Then he stopped coming to conferences. Turns out, he had faked all of his credentials. He hadn't even graduated from high school. Apparently lying about degrees is a huge no when it comes to grant funding, and the school he was working for lost all of the grants in his name. It was sad to hear about it since he had done such great work, and fooled pretty much everyone because he was so knowledgeable. Edit, for those asking the field, he worked in epidemiology, which is the study of disease at a population level. His particular area of interest was cancer. Also, I've never seen Suits, but I suppose I should now add that to my to-watch list. Currently it's that head of one of our research institutes and few of his colleagues somehow awarsed themselves about 1 million used/each as a bonus. In my country it takes about 70 years of work on average salary to get that money. Also the same professor possibly forged some data in paper 10 years ago. Who knows how it's gonna end, but sure more dirt is being pulled on other people as well. Edit, I'm not disclosing my location nor the names because it is still being investigated. Also to clear some possible confusion, the money stuff is a rumor I heard from multiple sources. They don't know each other. Likely nothing illegal here, no fraud or theft or whatever. They probably just get the money as a end-of-year bonus they awarded themselves. B. The paper is real deal ATM and is being investigated by ethics committee. C. I'm not personally involved in any of this. I'm at different department. While I am just a grad student, I have a contract with university and I am a university employee, just in case someone says that I'm just grad student. Our heads of department or course directors would purposely keep dragging students, the act of pulling a student through their studies, even though they'd fail most classes. They'd purposely grade the student just above a pass even though the content of work was astonishingly bad, because if they left or dropped out it'd look bad on the course's stats and dropout rate. Not to mention the university not getting the student loan money from there. Of course statistics would be ridiculously high for that particular degree, so they'd then sell this to prospective students and parents. This is currently still going on. Source, I'm a lecturer at a university and yes it disgusts me. Edit, I'm a UK-based lecturer, not from the US. My husband works in IT at our university, student employment. A few days ago he got a call asking if anyone in the office had a lot of experience with this certain program. Turns out the person calling accidentally deleted 82 virtual machines containing close to 10 years of research and data. He worked for a small department and they didn't have any backups of the data. Not sure what happened since my husband transferred him to a data specialist. Edit, I will not tell the university or the professor that this happened at for obvious reasons. My professor, for grad school had his lab raided by the FBI. This happened long before I joined. Apparently, One of his first or second class of grad students in the 80s/90s decided that they wanted to use lab resources to brew some meth. Very easy to do with the equipment we have. From what I am told, this student would stay late in lab after others had left, to get this done. In Breaking Bad style, he fences his drugs to some distributor and thought that was the end of it. The purity of his drugs was enough that they were able to trace it back from the streets to him and the lab. A sting operation shut down the lab, while the dust settled, and my professor was cleared of all wrongdoing, since none of this was under his direct control. And all campus resources were being misused by the student. State Intelligence Bureau told the professor that it was the largest and purest operation they had seen in the state at this time.